Welcome to the Pickup. I'm Will Lewis, and today's guest is Anna Tyrie, all the way from the great state country of Great Britain. Anna, welcome to the Pickup.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here with you again, Will.
Oh, very good to talk to you again. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Anna, start us off by telling us, how did you get started in voice acting?
So a little while ago, I did, quite a few years ago actually now, time ticks on, doesn't it? I did a Tomb Raider fan film, and a fan of that film, who was also a director, thought that I had a great voice, and asked, because he was making up a new computer game kind of idea, and asked if I would be the voice for that computer game. And that was called Lunatics. And so he used me initially for that, and that was the first time I really sampled doing voiceover work. It's something that I'd love to do a lot more of, actually, but it's very difficult. I don't know what it's like over there in the States, but over here it's very difficult to get into. And then I started just kind of putting myself out there to help any writers who needed a voice. And that's when I came across you, Will. And then I worked with you, and that's all I've really done. I haven't done that much in terms of voiceover work, to be honest, because like I say, it's very difficult to get into over here.
You haven't done that much yet.
Yet.
Okay, so Anna, rumor has it that you worked on a cruise ship for a little while.
Yes, that's true.
Now, that was a ship that went from where to where?
So I did 2 ships. It was 2 years in total. The first ship, it was always based in Southampton, so we always came back to Southampton to turn around, but we did a lot of Norway cruises, Mediterranean cruises. At one point I did a 3-month cruise around Asia, around Africa and back. We did a 3-week cruise over to the States and Canada, Iceland, Greenland, all those kind of places.
So 2 years on a ship.
2 years, yeah.
Living in a closet. What was that like?
It was the best time and the worst time all rolled into one. When you're at sea, anyone who's been at sea for a period of time will understand this. Everything's kind of accentuated, so your relationships are very different than they would be at home, because the people you work with, you also live with and socialize with. So it can make friendships really strong. It can also make things very fractious. So we had the most amazing parties, and what I loved about parties on the ship is that you didn't have to worry about getting a taxi home, or whether your shoes were uncomfortable because you didn't have to walk very far. Also, everything's very, very cheap when you're working on a ship. It's very cheap to party and have a good time. And then, of course, you're getting to see the wonderful places that you're traveling to. If you're lucky enough, like me, to be part of the show company, then you have quite a lot of time free in the day to go and explore the places that you're visiting. So it was one huge adventure. But then the downside of that also is you can't get off, and you don't really feel like you have any control. You are living with your bosses, and they decide all the time what you're doing and when you're doing it. You can't get away from that ever, and you're always on show. So the only time you are able to just be yourself is in your cabin. It's not a very big space. And of course, missing home. There's no ability to really use your mobile phone at sea or to connect to the internet. If you do, it's very expensive, and it's not a very good connection. So you really feel cut off from the world. And if you're ever feeling down, that can be really exaggerated because of that isolation, as it were.
So you say you're always on show. So does that mean if you want to go, let's say, to the kitchen to get yourself something to eat, you're always in character? You're always an employee of the ship? Yeah,
not necessarily a character. I mean, I don't know what it's like on different ships, but for me, I was just a singer with the show company. So if I went out on deck, or I wanted to go and eat, then you're putting across the face, because you're always with your customers. So you have to kind of behave yourself. As I'm generally very well behaved anyway, but you have to always look happy and smiley and speak to people.
That's not what I heard.
Well, we all have off days. But yeah, generally you're always with your customers, and so you can never quite relax. And even if you choose to go to what is called the officer mess, which is the dining room just for the officers and the employees, you're still on show, because you're still with your superiors and you're still with your bosses, and they're all kind of watching you and making sure you're behaving appropriately. And So sometimes you just need a break from that, and you just feel like
It's
you
kind
need
of
to
like
get away.
sometimes a really good disguise would have come in handy sometimes.
Yes, yes, it would. And the worst thing is if you get sick at sea. If you get sick at sea, because obviously it's a very confined space, they want to protect everybody. You go into isolation, and nobody's allowed to come and see you, and you're not allowed to see anybody, and you get confined to your cabin. So you kind of just hope that you're not sick for too long. Because people come, they bring you food and they're in proper suits to make sure they don't get infected.
Really?
Yeah, so it's really miserable. If you get really sick at sea, it's very miserable.
Like the full Ebola breather mask
Yep,
type thing?
yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So what was your first paid gig ever?
My first paid gig, I played Jasmine in a touring pantomime of Aladdin. And I'm a Disney freak, so that was like the best gig to get as my first job. Because I thoroughly loved being a Disney princess.
And how old were you when you got that one?
I would have been 20, 21 maybe.
Now, I'm not familiar with Aladdin. I'm ashamed to admit I've never seen the. Yeah, I know. So Jasmine is the romantic lead opposite the whatever his name is.
Yeah, Jasmine is the princess, and Aladdin is a poor boy who is just homeless and living on the streets, and he falls in love with the princess, and he finds a lamp that is a magic lamp.
And Robin Williams comes out.
He does.
Okay. Tell us about your approach to accents, because I hear you can do a hell of a American accent, and we may actually get a sample from you.
Oh my gosh.
How do you set those up?
Well, listening is generally the best way forward when it comes to accents. What I tend to do is try to isolate exactly what the main differences are in terms of different vowels, or like in American, for example, you guys will say your R a lot more than we do here. And once I know what those exact things are, then it's finding the tuning. So you just have to listen to lots of examples, and YouTube is great for those kind of things. You just have to type in whichever accent you want, and generally you can find hundreds and thousands of videos of people with those accents. But I don't know, there's a lot of accents that are very hard and I would never profess to be able to do. I just recently did a show where I had to do an American accent, and I had a lot of Americans come to see the show, and it's quite nerve-wracking actually, because you're thinking, is this a good accent or is this just me being horrible?
Can you give us a line?
Okay, so the show I just did, I was playing Audrey Anderson. And I was very much into my gardening, and I grew my tomatoes, but I had a problem with them because they were green. They would not ripen. So I had this little trick where I'd expose myself every day to my tomatoes to try to make them blush with embarrassment. Now, it did nothing for my tomatoes, but my cucumbers grew up great and strong.
Yeah, I bet the neighbors really liked you too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the one thing I noticed, the thing that stood out the most to me about that accent is that your pace slowed, your words slowed. Was that a conscious thing, or is it just sort of what comes out naturally as you try to hit, as you said, all the vowels and the consonants correctly?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's making sure I'm slowing down, I guess, to think about what I'm saying as I'm saying it, so my vowels don't slip. But then I guess it's what I just gave you there was a touch of my character that I've just been playing, and she was very much kind of touchy-feely, tactile kind of character, and she was very seductive, and so she did speak quite slowly anyway, so it's a little bit of a character choice there as well.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Oh, thank you.
Now, what you are, and this is going to be helpful for me too, because I know that you teach elocution. Am I saying that right?
Yes, that's right.
Elocution. Elocution.
Yes, that's right.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what that is.
Elocution is just the art of speaking well, really. It's changed over the years. A long time ago, decades ago, it used to be about how you held yourself and how you sat and how you ate and the kinds of things that you'd say. But now it's, as far as most people are concerned, it's just really about how you speak. And that goes from everything from breathing properly to standing up properly so you can produce good voice, projecting your voice, as well as then working the articulators. So that those are your lips, your teeth, your tongue, to make sure that you produce all the sounds correctly. Now, when I'm teaching, I tend to either teach English people who have a very strong accent. Maybe they're from up the north of England, or they might be from Newcastle or Liverpool or somewhere that's got a strong accent, or here in London. Or I teach people from another country who either want to sound more standard English when they're speaking with in the English language, or they want to keep their own accent, but they just want to be clearer because they mumble. Or perhaps I've got some people who have a lisp, so a trouble pronouncing certain sounds. They might have a weak R, or they might hiss when they speak. So different things really. I've got a few stutterers as well. So it's just breaking everything down and helping them to produce sound properly.
Now, there are a lot of movie actors who could probably use a few of your lessons because they, some of these A-listers, like, I'm not going to name any.
No, don't.
But some of them have been criticized for not, enunciating their lines very well and just sort of mumbling through scenes. So,
well, it seems to be the fashion, doesn't it? It seems to be that kind of having that gruff, mumbly kind of voice seems to be the fashion for movies at the moment.
Okay, so I think what I just heard you say is elocution started out years ago, decades ago, as maybe like manners you would teach to a debutante.
Yeah, it's like etiquette. So it was all kind of all put together, etiquette and elocution. It was all about how you behaved.
Right. But now nobody cares so much what sort of forks you use when you sit at the dining table. So now it's all about the way you speak. Mm-hmm. More or less.
Yeah, especially because the world is becoming a smaller place and because we're all communicating across the globe. I think people just want to be able to be understood, and especially in business, business is growing day on day and it's more and more competitive and people want to come across well. So when they're phoning different countries, they want to be able to put across what they want to say very clearly and very quickly and efficiently.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is doubly important for voice actors because unlike film actors or theater actors, we don't have any visual aids that we can use to help tell the story.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything depends on our voice and being able to relay the character's feelings and actions through solely through our voice. And so I think that, if you're a voice actor and you have the Harrison Ford problem, I don't think you're going to get very many gigs. You're probably not going to do so well. But tell us, Anna, how do you balance your busy acting career with your elocution business?
Well, the elocution is completely flexible because I work one-on-one generally with people. So I just book them in my diary with the clause that they know that I'm an actor. And if work comes up, if auditions come up, then I must rearrange. To be honest with you, actually, I've been moving away from teaching a little bit more to focus more on the acting because things have started happening more in that direction. And I have created an elocution online product so that my students don't feel I've completely deserted them. And this is going to be available in a couple of weeks. It's basically I've put everything down in video format and audio format, and there's workbooks and everything, and people can still continue to work remotely, as it were.
Right.
Without me.
Well, yeah. Well, maybe you can share that information at the end of our interview with some of our listeners who might be interested in your service.
Absolutely.
So, you've been involved with quite a few projects over the years. I mean, you've done everything from Lara Croft to the sexy Jessica Rabbit. And tell us right now, what's the hottest thing you're working on right now?
The hottest or the hardest?
Well, how about both? What are you working on? What are some of the things you're working on right now? I remember Back to the Future is a very recent project. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Back to the Future finished last week. So I'm kind of still in the post-show blue section at the moment, missing the cast and
Still thinking about the rap party. Huh?
Yeah. That was a very, very ambitious project. It's actually coming over to the States very soon. And we basically, I don't know how much I should say, but basically we built Hill Valley. And it was on this huge plot in Stratford in London, and nobody knew quite what to expect, because that's the format of secret cinema, is everything is a secret until they get there and experience it. There were 70 actors, or just over 70 actors on board. We had all the vehicles, and we had a complete facade of the town hall. We had functioning shops. We had a functioning radio station. We had a functioning television studio. We had a post office. You could hire bikes, all these different things. There was a high school and a high school dance, and Lou's Diner was all up and running. We had a fairground. We had a farm with animals. So it was a completely immersive experience, and the audience would arrive around 5 o'clock, and the experience would go on till you could stay until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. So it was a very full-on experience for anyone coming along. And the actors, it's one of the hardest jobs I've done, in the sense that we're on show from 5, and you are you're just improvising the whole time. You've got your character, you've got your history, you've got your connections throughout the town, but you're just improvising. Every show is completely different. It just depends what the audience brings to you, or what ideas the actors come up with and throw at you, and you just go with it. And so some days I was divorcing my husband, other days I was having affairs with the headmaster. All these different things were going on.
I mean, you needed some help with your garden. What were you going to do?
Well, yes. I mean, I always had problems with my bush. My bush was very messy, and I was always trying to enlist members of the audience to trim my bush, much to the dismay of my husband at the time. We actually had a few celebrities come in, which was quite exciting. I remember on the last day, I turned around. We had a house full of people. I turned around to this lady who was wandering into my home, and I asked her if I could help her, what she was doing in my house, and it turned out to be Ruby Wax.
Oh, who's that? Tell us who's that.
You don't know who Ruby Wax is?
Ruby Wax. Is she American?
Yeah, she is. She's a comedian. And
Ruby Wax. I don't know who that is.
Oh my goodness, you must Google her. She's quite an outspoken, forward-thinking comedian. Yeah, you need to Google her.
I'm gonna Google her. Yeah, I bet I will recognize her face. But
yeah, you definitely will. You definitely will. So yeah, that was a very exciting experience, and we actually had Bob Geld came along for 3 of the shows. And Bob Geld is the writer and producer of the films, Back to the Future, the films.
Oh, I know who Bob Geld is. No, just kidding. He's a writer. Now, I thought of the film. I thought, what's his name? The guy who did, I can't think of his name right now, but I didn't think it was Bob Geld as the director. I thought it was...
No, not the director. He wasn't the director. He was the writer and producer.
Oh, producer. I thought you said director. Sorry. Okay.
No, that's cool. So he came along on 3 of the nights, and I didn't realize who he was on the first night. I thought he must have been an important person because he was brought to me by a member of the crew. I thought he was a member of the press. So I flirted outrageously with him and got him to sit down on my very comfortable bed, which I'd broken in, asking him if he was married and all these kind of things, and telling him he should come and visit me. And then I realised who he was, and he actually wrote me a letter just a few days ago to say what a memorable experience it was and how much he enjoyed meeting me.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So yeah, that was fun.
So let me see if I understand how this works. The audience is seated, or they walk around through the set and interact with the players?
Yeah, so they come into a town as you would any town, and it's up to them what they do. They can go and sit on the lawn. There's no seating as such. When the film is playing, they can sit where they like, but it's outdoors, so they can sit on walls, they can sit on some benches that are around, they can sit on the grass.
Like a theme park, like Disney World.
Absolutely. And they come, and they can either be really interactive and get as much out of it as possible, and they can meet the characters from the film. So we had Marty McFly walking around, George McFly, Biff was going around beating everybody up. All these different things. The headmaster was putting people in detention, Mr. Strickland. Yeah, it's how much you want to get out of it. So some people did just come, place their little mats on the lawn and sit down with their picnics and just wait for the film to start. Whereas other people really got involved, and those are the people who get more out of it.
Oh, so there was a screen that actually showed the movie.
Yeah, eventually. So the movie came on. There was maybe 2 or 3 hours of pre-narrative activity going on, and then after that, then we kind of gathered everybody in for the mayor's speech, and then the screen started up.
We don't have anything like that here in the States.
Well, no, but you will do. You will do. Look out for Secret Cinema.
All right.
It's on its way over.
Okay, we are ready. Now, we've come to this portion of the interview where we want to do a little free association with you, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw some names at you, and I want you to react. First thing that comes to your mind. You can say one word, you can say 2 or 3 words. We just want to keep the pace really brisk.
Okay.
Okay? So, Anna, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Sean Connery.
Sexy voice.
Sir Patrick Stewart.
X-Man.
Australia.
Hot and surfing.
Margaret Thatcher.
Iron Fist.
Benny Hill.
Silly tune.
Yoko Ono.
Oh, I want to say Star Wars.
Yoko Ono.
The Beatles.
Yeah. Simon Cowell.
X Factor.
Star Wars Episode 7.
What?
Justin Bieber.
Oh, annoying.
Emily Blunt.
Great voice.
Idris Elba.
Not quite sure.
Okay. All right. That was easy. That was pretty good. You did great.
I do like Star Wars. It's just when you say number 7, I can't think which one that was.
Oh, that's the one that hasn't been released yet.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's why. I was going, which one's that one?
So let's do a pickup on that. Anna, Star Wars Episode 7.
Can't wait.
All right. That one makes a little more sense. Okay. All right. Okay, so Anna, thank you very much for spending time with us.
No, thank you.
It was great, really interesting. Now, how can our listeners follow your projects? I mean, I know you've got a Twitter, you got a Facebook, you got a YouTube channel. How can they keep up with what you're doing?
Okay, so if they're interested in elocution, then the website for that is elocutiononline.com. Otherwise, like you said, just come and find me on Facebook, Anna Tyrie Official Facebook, or on Twitter. Just type in, I think it's Anna_Tyrie at Twitter. Like you said, YouTube again. On YouTube, I'm slightly different. I've got Anna Another Thing. Do you get it? Anna Another Thing.
Anna, can you spell that for us?
So it's Anna, my name, ANNA, then a space, and then it's Another Thing, like another thing.
And another thing. All right.
See what I've done there?
Yeah, I oh my gosh, that's brilliant. You should trademark that right away.
Absolutely. It's already been filed.
Okay, Anna, everyone who comes into the pickup interview, we've discovered, well, they always knew that there is some talent that they have. We've had harmonica players, we've had impressionists, and I understand, Anna, that you are a singer.
That's right.
Okay, so will you play us out with a song?
Oh, talk about putting someone on the spot.
I know, that's what the pickup is all about. It doesn't have to be long.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be... Okay, so set it up for us and then go ahead and rip one for us.
I'll give you my Jessica Rabbit.
Okay.
You had plenty money in 1922. You let other women make a fool of you. Why don't you do right like some other men do? Get out of here, get me some money too.